Hello, okay, today we are going to be doing a very exciting video that I have been planning for a little while now, so I'm hoping it comes out the way I am envisioning it, but I'm doing a very niche specific reading vlog today of Southern Gothic books. Now, I feel like Southern Gothic is the perfect summer intro book. As you may know by now, I love themed reading, themed anything. But I feel like Southern Gothic is perfect intro. Southern Gothic is such a fun summer genre because, there's a lot of themes of like humid, hot, swampy kind of vibes. And what better time to be reading that when it's also hot and swampy outside? Okay, I'm trying not to yap for too long because my videos recently have been very, very long. So let's get right into what I will be reading and doing in this vlog. So to begin, I have a few books that I have on my radar to be reading right now. And I've already started one. I've started When the Reckoning Comes on audiobook. As with most of my vlogs and my videos, I'm doing a mix of audiobook, Kindle, and physical copies. I have two books actually coming in the mail. Hopefully they'll be here today, but because of that, we'll probably be doing just audiobook and Kindle for the most of this first bit. But yes, I'm starting with When the Reckoning Comes, and then I have Beloved by Toni Morrison coming today, as well as When the Devil Sings by, who's this by? Zoncourt, which I think is a new release. And then I think I'm going to, on my Kindle, start reading The Bog Wife. I will probably tell you about these as I am reading them to save on time. But then also, those are my main priorities. I would also really like to get to The Reformatory. I will probably do this on audiobook. And then, okay, this one's funny. The Isle of Sin and Shadow. What is that, you may ask? That is actually, I think, a spicy romance Southern Gothic thriller. So I don't think it's horror necessarily, but I was so intrigued by that concept that I did add it to the list, although it is definitely not my highest priority of reading. If I can get to it, I will. This is also not going to be a vlog where I'm like forcing myself to read every single book on there. One, because I just don't think I'll have time. But two, it'll be nice to have like options to read these books in the future for when I'm in the mood for Southern Gothic and not finish them all at once. Let's also talk a little bit about what we'll be doing in this little vlog. I'm excited to try to do as many themed activities as I can. Like I said, I love a themed anything. So we're actually going to be reading at a lily pad pond later in just a moment. I don't have any swamps or bogs where I live. I live in a big city, so it's going to be my compromise for that. I think it'll be a really nice, fun setting to, one, just be outside to read, but also kind of have boggy vibes without actually being in a southern bog. So I'm very excited for that. I also am planning on going to a New Orleans themed restaurant this weekend, maybe watching a Southern Gothic movie, and just trying to get in some other little themed things. Obviously, again, I don't live in the South. I don't live in a swamp. So I'm going to be a little bit adjusted to fit what I can do here, but I am really excited just to do all these like fun activities. I absolutely love this vibe, this aesthetic, this genre, and I'm very excited to explore it more. With that being said, I do want to give like a little description, a little intro for what Southern Gothic is in case you don't know. And I am going to pull up, somebody else wrote up a really good description of what it is, and they did it so well that I'm just going to read theirs, but I will have their handle on screen so you can go to their Instagram, see what they said. Their handle is Emily's Annotations on Instagram, but I will include it in a screenshot as well. But it says, Southern Gothic fiction emerged in the early 20th century in the aftermath of the Civil War and the fall of the Confederacy. Blending Gothic elements with Southern realism, the genre established tropes such as decaying landscapes, generational trauma and inherited guilt, religious conflict, racial tension, and social stagnation, all rooted in the American South. Rather than relying on the supernatural, Southern Gothic locates the Gothic in human behavior, moral decay, and the pressures of conformity. So that is kind of a breakdown. It is a lot. It is inspired and influenced a lot and is about the, aftermath of the Confederacy, of slavery, of its lasting effects. And I feel like it has to deal a lot with the past, and especially in horror, the past coming back to haunt you in some way. So that is the genre. I think this is such an interesting genre because it is one, like, from America. This is, I feel like you know, we don't have that many things that are like originated here necessarily. So I think that's really cool. And just the history of it in general, as well as some of the themes, I think are so interesting. And I just really love this genre a lot. I feel like it's kind of an underexplored genre a little bit. I think more and more it's becoming more popular. For instance, like Sinners that just came out last year, I think is an example of Southern Gothic. And I just love the atmosphere. I love the issues that are usually explored in this genre. So very excited to get into reading some books about this. Speaking of books, I will give you a little bit of a brief description of the book I'm currently listening to, which I will listen to as I walk over there as well. This is When the Reckoning Comes by LaTanya McQueen. This is the description. It says, Mira fled her small segregated hometown in the South to forget. With every mile she traveled, she distanced herself from her past, from her best friend Celine, mocked by their town as the only white girl with black friends, from her old neighborhood, from the eerie woodsman plantation rumored to be haunted by the spirits of slaves, from the terrifying memory of a ghost she saw, that terrible day when a dare gone wrong almost got Jesse, the boy she secretly loved, arrested for murder. But now Mira is back in Kipson to attend Celine's wedding at the plantation, which has been transformed into a lush vacation resort. Mira hopes to reconnect with her friend and especially Jesse to finally tell him the truth about her feelings and the events of the devastating long ago day. But for all its fancy renovations, the Woodsman remains a monument to its oppressive racist history. The bar serves antebellum drinks, entertainments include horrifying reenactments, and the service staff is nearly all black. Yet the darkest elements of the plantation's past have been carefully erased. Rumors that slaves were tortured mercilessly and that ghosts roamed the land seeking vengeance on the descendants of those who tormented them, which includes most of the wedding guests. As the weekend unfolds, Mira, Jesse, and Celine are forced to acknowledge their history together and to save themselves from what is to come. So, as I said, I've already started listening to it. I think I said that. I've already started listening to this, and so far we're still in the intro. Not much has happened. It's a little bit slower, I think, to get to the exposition and to the meat of the story. But I am liking the writing style so far, and we've had a little bit of back and forth between Mira, who is our main character now as an adult attending the wedding, versus her as a younger, I think she was like a preteen or maybe a teenager, living in this kind of rundown town and having these experiences. So, like I said, I'm trying not to yap too much, so I'm going to end it there. We're going to get ready to go, and then I will update you when I'm at the lily pad pond. Also, in case you wanted a little OOTD, I do really love the shirt, and I was trying to kind of emulate a Gothic-ish vibe. Maybe not Southern Gothic, but I feel like these sleeves can kind of give romantic Gothic. And I have like this little lace, and then I have this little necklace. Everything is pretty much thrifted, so apologies. This necklace, and then I have, I don't know if you can see them, I have these little beetle earrings. I love these earrings, and I feel like that there's like sometimes mention of like cicadas and bugs in Southern Gothic. So as you can tell, I'm trying to be on theme, and then I just have like normal shorts and boots, nothing crazy, just because I know I'll just be like sitting on the ground or outside. But yeah, that's my little outfit. Today is a new day, and giving you a little reading update. I am almost completely finished with When the Reckoning Comes, which I've been listening to on audiobook, and so far I don't know if I'm loving it. I think honestly that the pacing is a little bit off. It felt like it took so long to get into the main story. Like it was kind of a lot of like back and forth between Mira, who's our main character now, and then like her childhood at first, and now it just feels very relationship focused almost. There's someone from her childhood who she's going to see at this wedding, and she's like obviously looking forward to it because she like had a really big crush on him, never worked out, and it's now years later and she's like, I think kind of hoping to reconcile. But I'm kind of just like, where is the horror element? I am not really, the first, I would say like, I don't know, even maybe 60 or 50% of it just was not a lot of horror in it. And I mean, that is kind of what I thought it was mostly going to be going into it. So that's been interesting. And then when the horror, now that we're kind of towards the end, actually did come in, it's not at all what I was expecting. It's much more like, what's the word? I don't know. It just kind of is almost like a background tool and not as present as I thought it was going to be. Also, I just don't understand some of the choices that like Mira and some of the other characters are really making. I don't know. It's just not really going how I thought it was, which is somewhat disappointing because I was very interested in the premise. I thought it was a very interesting premise with like a lot of opportunity for really good horror. And I definitely thought it was going to be more of like a revenge situation because Mira is going back to this like small town where she's from. And she was from like the predominantly pretty poor Black part of her community. And the wedding is like on a plantation with all of the descendants, I guess, of previous like slave owners or like people involved in the plantation's history. And they're all white except for her and her like childhood crush who she's like going back for. So I definitely thought there was going to be more of a revenge element. And like, I think that could still be coming. But yeah, it's just kind of very slow paced in the beginning, and now that we're finally into it, it's I feel like already very far into the book, so I'm interested to see how it all wraps up because I am like still intrigued and I don't hate it. It's just I guess not what I was expecting. But yeah, so almost done with that. Then I did start, as you saw, when I went to the lily pad pond, which was so beautiful. It's like I feel like the perfect time to go because it's very lush and green, but it's still not too hot here. Saw some cute ducks, saw a lot of people. It was honestly poppin'. But I started the Bog Wife, which I don't think I gave a description of actually. I wish I had my other phone so I could like read the actual description that they give you because I feel like, I mean, they always do a better job than me. But it is about a family who lives like on a bog, on a farm, on a piece of land, I don't know, that's been passed down to them through generations. Like their entire family has like lived on this land and they're kind of like recluses in there. I think it's an Appalachian town, so somewhere over there. And they have to basically sacrifice the patriarch. Or no, I think when the patriarch dies, the next eldest son has to go into the bog, like inside the bog. And when he comes back out, he has a bog wife, and they have to have the bog wife to keep the land. Like there's some kind of connection where if they fail, then their land fails. They're like, I don't know if they have crops or what's going on, but they need the bog wife, basically. So started reading that. It's definitely interesting. So we're getting a perspective from each of the siblings so far. I believe there's 5 siblings. There's 2 boys, 3 girls, and we're getting each chapter is a different perspective from them, which the first chapter was the youngest girl, and she's definitely giving very much we used to live in the we've always lived in the castle vibes, which I just read last month. She's older, like she's like, I mean like older as in like 18, 20, whatever, but she reads, I feel like her character reads much younger, like has a very young outlook, I guess, which I think is interesting because I feel like when they did that, and we've always lived in the cast, to show like how kind of stunted she was because they were outsiders, and I feel like they're definitely trying to do the same thing here, so that's interesting. And what else is interesting is that one of the siblings left and is like kind of leading this like normal-ish life. Like she's like talking about how she's going to therapy and like how she doesn't want to come back even though her dad right now is dying. So like the last patriarch, and then the cycle has to start again. So she like kind of leads this normal life with like a husband, and like has left her hometown, has left the farm, and now has to come back for this funeral. And I just thought that was interesting, because I definitely thought it was going to be a way more like everybody was like super codependent on each other and didn't even know a life outside of the bog kind of thing, which I feel like happens a lot with like these weird like for instance, We've Always Lived in the Castle, like they never left and they never really talked to other outsiders, like it was mostly just them, and so I kind of thought it was going to be similar vibe. So I think that is going to be interesting to like see her as a character come back to this kind of weird family dynamic. But yeah, and I have not made it that far into that, so I definitely want to get some more reading time in today with that. But also, let me finish up my blush situation, which looks crazy now, but I will blend it in a little more in a second. Also, I had some books come in that I ordered. I think I mentioned that I had some coming in, so very excited about these. Oh my gosh. Okay. I have Beloved by Toni Morrison, and I really love this cover of it. There's like a few, obviously this is like a classic, so there's a few different covers. I've read The Bluest Eye, which is also Toni Morrison, I believe, in high school for like English class, and really, really liked it. This is supposed to be Southern Gothic, as is the theme of the video. And this apparently is like a Southern Gothic classic, which I have definitely seen and heard of this book quite a bit. Obviously Toni Morrison is a very famous author. I never knew it was supposed to be a Southern Gothic, so I'm very interested to see. And I think it's even technically a horror, because I feel like not all Southern Gothic has to be necessarily horror. I think technically this is a horror, so I'm very interested to see like how this reads. Actually, I'll give you a description on this. Okay, it says, staring unflinchingly into the abyss of slavery, this spellbinding novel transformed history into a story as powerful as Exodus and as intimate as a lullaby. Seth, its protagonist, was born a slave and escaped to Ohio, but 18 years later, she is still not free. She has too many memories of Sweet Home, the beautiful farm where so many hideous things happened. I hope it's Seth's. Actually, I feel like that's not how you pronounce it. Maybe Safe. I don't know. Saith's new home is haunted by the ghost of her baby who died nameless and whose tombstone is engraved with a single word, Beloved. Filled with bitter poetry and suspense as taut as a rope, Beloved is a towering achievement by Nobel Prize laureate Toni Morrison. So I think this is going to be obviously really well written and amazing, but also probably really, really sad. I feel like that's what I've heard about this. And then I also have When the Devils Sing, and this is by Zan Kaur, which I love this cover too, and the back is really cool. Focus on it. Okay, cool. And I did get this. I actually got this secondhand, and it was only like $10. And I know not everyone likes a sprayed edge, but I think that they can be really, really fun. That's like a better view of it. Not every sprayed edge. Some are, kind of just whatever, but I think that one's cute. And I believe, this is so funny, I saw this author promoting her book on like TikTok like a year before it came out, and I saved it because I thought it sounded very interesting, but I believe this is her debut. And this is a description. It says, when Dawson Sumter goes missing, all he leaves behind is a smattering of blood in room 4 of the debt-ridden motel owned by Neera Singh's family. Disappearances like this aren't common in the rural Georgia town of Carrion, especially every 13 years when a cicada brood returns from underground, shrieking their deafening screams. For Neera, Dawson is another reminder that in the corner of the South, the rich only get richer and the poor, well, nothing good comes their way. Neera sets out to investigate Dawson's whereabouts, if he even still lives, along with 3 other teens, Isaiah, son of a prominent judge and clandestine true crime podcaster, interesting, Reed, son of the wealthiest man in the region, and Sam, estranged daughter of the local hitman. What? Okay, it's crazy. What a cast. As they find themselves entangled in a messy web of secrets and lies, they discover the riches of the adjacent Lake Clearwater community may have a terrifying source of power, dating back to the town's founding in an ancient urban legend about 3 devils,
each more sinister than the last. How deep does the rot go, and can they find a way to escape its reach? So very intrigued by that. Oh, pretty inside cover too. And yeah, I feel like this is going to be a very good, I don't know if this is YA, but I do think that YA horror is some of the better YA to be read. Like, I feel like YA romance I can't really get into as much anymore, which is fair. It's literally not made for me anymore. But YA horror, I feel like transcends the age boundaries, because I feel like I always enjoy it and they do a very good job. I'm hoping to read a little bit more of The Bog Wife, maybe get a few more chapters in, also hopefully finish maybe When the Reckoning Comes today. And then I really want to start one of my new books. I don't know which one yet. I might honestly do When the Devil Sings, because I feel like I want a little bit of more a traditional like horror. So I might start that today. But yeah, that's the plans. Oh, also I wanted to show you, this has literally nothing to do with the video at all, but I got it in the same time as my books. I did get new shoes. I wanted to show you because I think they're cute. They're these little, I'm calling them my elf shoes. Little flats, which I notoriously and historically have never been a flat girl because I'm very short and I need all the height that I can get because it's rough out here, down here. And I do think they're really cute. I'm primarily got them for work because sometimes I don't really want to wear my big chunky shoes to work, but we'll see how that goes. Like I said, I've never really worn flats. But yeah, those are my reading plans. And tonight we're gonna go to a dinner. It's like a New Orleans themed restaurant. And I'm so excited. I've been there once before, but I only got like appetizers and drinks. So I'm excited to like actually eat some of the food. I definitely plan on getting their like gumbo. I went to New Orleans in October or September of this year, and I guess technically last year. And I think about the food on a daily basis. It was some of the best food I've ever had, and also one of my favorite trips ever. So I'm very excited to get a little taste of it again tonight. But yeah, those are the plans today. I think that's all. I'm trying to keep from yapping too long, so I'm gonna wrap it up. You won't see my makeup looking normal, I guess. Maybe I'll update you just so you know that I am gonna fix this situation. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say. So I'm gonna finish my makeup and get back into some reading. Okay, this is the final look for our little New Orleans themed dinner we're going to tonight. I have this little gem necklace, pearl earrings, this cool arm cuff situation, and then this like, I feel like you can't tell. Honestly, it looks like almost like, here we go, these little gemstones on this strapless dress. I really like the bottom of this dress, that it's like, I think it's called handkerchief style, where it's uneven kind of. I don't love the boots with this, but I don't really want to wear heels, and this is kind of, I feel like, the best option. So gonna rock with them. It's just dinner. Also gonna be wearing my Orabella perfume, which I feel like is a perfect combo with this look and the vibe. So that is it, and I'm so excited to eat some gumbo. Okay, it's a new day. Today we are going to the zoo, and I'm really hoping we see a gator, because I feel like that is going to bring the fun swamp Southern Gothic vibes. And then I think we're just going to walk around and maybe find somewhere to read for a little bit. So let's do it. I'm here to you a day later because I kind of forgot to update you yesterday. Also, I hope you can hear me. I'm wearing my little mic because my dishwasher is on, and I
it's kind of loud, so hopefully you can hear me. But yes, just wanted to update. Like I said in my like really short clip, I went to the zoo yesterday. I had so much fun. I wanted to see a little alligator to kind of tie into my swamp theme that I have going on. Although I kind of also just wanted to go to the zoo and walk around. So that's what we did. And they actually did not have an alligator, but they did have a little crocodile. So I said hello to him. I said, hello, and you in your little makeshift bog. I'm also in my own makeshift bog this week. I didn't update you about dinner yet either, but it was delicious. Like I said, I went to this like Louisiana, New Orleans, like overall Southern themed restaurant. So good. I did forget to get clips of my food because I was, one, so hungry, and two, so excited, and ate everything rather quickly. But I got the like classic gumbo. It had sausage and shrimp and some other fish in there, I think. And we also got catfish bites, which were so good. And then beignets for dessert. And I did forget to take pictures and videos. I'm sorry. But I also got a hurricane. I recorded that. She was delish. She was amazing. We like went downstairs to check out the speakeasy, but didn't really stay. We just like kind of wanted to go home. So we just checked it out. It was really cute in there. Very like the decor in there is like perfect, I would say. Those are my fun little theme things. Let's get back into talking about the books that we're reading. So I did finish When the Reckoning Comes. And I think I gave this 3 stars. I liked parts of it, and I think other parts were just not what I was expecting, which is on me. The book just felt very slow. It felt slow to get into the like meat of the plot, and then even when we got into the thick of it, it still kind of felt, I don't know, just not as crazy as I thought it was going to be. I'll say that we learned a lot about the plantation's history, and the real life horrors in this book are obviously terrifying and horrible and grotesque. The treatment of the slaves, the like abuse and everything they went through, the torture really is what it was, is obviously very horrific. However, I was going into the story like thinking that the supernatural element would be a little bit more present than it was. And I mean, there definitely was a ghost story involved. It was a very traditional ghost story, I felt. I had to readjust a little bit, so if I look shorter, it's because now I'm on my butt instead of my feet. Very professional recording situation we have. There was definitely a ghost story element, and it was a very like traditional ghost story. Ghosts would show up, kind of like relive a moment of their past, like as ghosts, you know, and then they would like disappear, which I think is cool in theory. Like it is really cool to just see those more traditional ghost stories. I just don't, I think I was expecting something else. I feel like the way that the description of the book was described, it kind of led me to believe that there would be a little bit more of like a revenge.
Okay, sorry for the quick interruption, but I was watching back this clip and turns out that the audio cut halfway through. I think my mic must have died or I just pressed it or something, so that's so amazing. Love it! And honestly, it's been a minute, so I don't fully even remember what exactly I was saying. I know I gave my thoughts and opinions on When the Reckoning Comes, and then I was trying to give you my thoughts and opinions on The Bog Wife. And that's what mostly the second half of the clip was. So we'll do that here. So The Bog Wife, I also gave 3 stars. I gave When the Reckoning Comes 3 stars as well. I don't know if I mentioned that in the first clip. And again, I think this was just not exactly what I expected it to be. So that led to some mixed feelings. Also, it might just be my like state of mind that I'm in while reading these books. I don't know. Maybe, I don't want to say that I'm in a slump, but I wasn't like as excited to pick something up and read at the time, so that could have been a factor. This is the story of the family that has to bury their patriarch in the bog so that the next eldest son will get a bog wife to ensure that the land continues to be good and fertile. And yeah, so we have an interesting cast of characters. It's these group of siblings, and I think I just was a little bit disappointed at the characterization of them. I just felt like they did not grow at all. It was basically like flatline the entire book, and I feel like they all had so much potential to be more interesting, especially one of the characters, Wenna. Wait, no. Was it Wenna or was it... Can't remember which sister, but there was one sister who left the like land, which no one had ever done before. and basically was living like a completely normal life, like with her husband, blah, blah, blah. And I was very excited for her to like be able to come back. And what I assumed was going to be this moment of, you know, showing her other siblings what life was like maybe getting them out of there, like maybe their experiences versus the real world. And that's not what happened. She just very quickly like delved back into her old life, even though she adamantly was almost every other page saying that she did not want to say, she did not want this family to have their hooks in her again, and yet she completely fell victim to their ways, and honestly to no fault but her own. Sorry girl, but I mean, you could have left. And then it just wasn't. So also I feel like I didn't make it clear enough that the books that I had planned to read, wanted to read for this, was not just purely Southern Gothic, but specifically Southern Gothic horror. And I felt like this was lacking a lot of horror elements. There was nothing really scary, eerie, anything. If anything, this was magical realism to me, which I like that. I like magical realism, especially like when it's in a contemporary setting. And this definitely was not urban fantasy, but like, you know what I mean? Like where there is real life and it's happening while there's these magical things happening within like everyday occurrences, kind of. I do enjoy that. It's just not what I was expecting. So I was a little bit disappointed. And I just feel like I kept waiting for something to happen the entire book. It feels like the first half, there feels like there is a buildup to something big, something exciting, or, you know, that'll get the story, that will push the story into the second half. And for me, that just never happened. I'm not quite sure if this is a spoiler, but it might be. So if you don't want to hear a spoiler, don't listen. It's a very small one. But so the eldest son is supposed to get a wife from the bog. That does not happen. That's the first time it's never happened. And later on we find out maybe why, but also not really. It's not really clear on what happened and if it's a magical realism explanation or like a real life, maybe even true crime situation, which that would have been so interesting to like delve into that a little bit more. And I think that would have brought in a lot of the horror elements, but it's just so unclear that I don't even know if that's what they wanted to truly land on, which was disappointing. And yeah, so he doesn't get his wife. And then the whole book, you're kind of like, okay, so now what's going to happen? Like, what are they going to do? And what do they do? Because it just like not a lot. I don't know. It was okay. There was a lot of elements I liked, and I know that this was definitely trying to like say something more than the face value events that were happening about family, about generational trauma, about guilt, about carrying on traditions that, you know, don't sit with you anymore, or you don't feel are something that you value but your family has valued in the past, so you feel like you need to uphold them. I understand that. I wish it had all of that with the horror elements that I was kind of expecting, but maybe that's on me for expecting it to be a true horror when it's like definitely more Southern Gothic. And I think it is described as a horror. I don't know. Maybe I got that wrong. But yes, for both books, I think that they are very good examples of Southern Gothic. Maybe not the best horror books, but very good examples of Southern Gothic. They both have that generational trauma, you know, your father's mistakes, the quote, not, you know, your parents' mistakes are ones that you have to not only live with, but usually like atone for in some way. I feel like those concepts are very Southern Gothic. So for that, I think they're both very good examples of the genre. Just maybe not my personal favorite stories in general. Which is why the next read I chose was When the Devils Sing, which feels a little bit more like traditional horror elements with all the Southern Gothic vibes that I also wanted. So I've been really enjoying that. Like I said, we will be finishing that book in this vlog and then also wrapping it up with a Southern Gothic horror movie. I will be watching Skeleton Key, which is like I said, Southern Gothic horror set in Louisiana swamps with Kate Hudson, which I feel like I never see her in horror, so I think that'll be really interesting to see her performance. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. I'm trying to keep the yapping to a minimum, and let's go ahead and finish my book. Just finished When Devils Sing by Zancore. I think I'm gonna give this 4 stars, maybe more like a 3.75, but I think I need to sit with it a little bit longer before I make a final rating decision. I did enjoy this a lot though, and I really liked I think what really stood out to me was the characters. It kind of gave me similar vibes to the Raven Cycle, that kind of found family with like magical elements, and everyone has their own very unique backstory and history and like kind of trauma that directly reflect in their character and their decisions. And I think when that is well done, it is so amazing and works so perfectly for these type of found family stories. And I love those. And not to be a hater, but I read a book last month that I talked about in length how much I disliked it. I feel like that had the wrong type of found family vibes, because it was just too much lore, too much backstory, too many like links and stuff, to the point where I just didn't care about any of the characters. This was much better, where I actually did care about them and wanted to see them do well and wanted to see what they would do and like make sure they like got out of this alive. That being said, I am slightly disappointed by the ending. I feel like because I liked the characters so much and I connected to them, I wanted more from the ending in terms of what they were doing after the fact. I feel like it suffers a little bit from this like big crescendo ending and then wrapping up really, really quickly. I mean, it is a pretty short book. I think it's only like around 300 something pages. Honestly, I would have taken an extra 50 pages of just a little bit more closure, but that's just me. This definitely has the most like horror vibe out of all the books that I've read for the video, so I did really enjoy that. This to me was such a perfect just small town horror. It's about this group of 4 kids who all live in basically the same town. It's one town, Carrion, and then another kind of adjacent but like kind of in the same town, Lake Clearwater. And Lake Clearwater is the rich, affluent neighborhood, where Carrion is the very poor, very impoverished area, which I think is also something we've seen a lot, specifically in When the Reckoning Comes, and in this one, and in Southern Gothic in general, that I think is interesting is the comparison and, you know, the very stark comparison of the wealthy, of how they live, of how they treat the people in these impoverished settings. I feel like that is another big theme of Southern Gothic, which I find very interesting. And this summer, they are basically brought together to try to figure out the mystery of why one of their friends, acquaintances have gone missing, and why it seems every 13 years the town of Carrion becomes totally overrun with cicadas, and the town people start acting a little bit weird. And maybe they learn that the folk tales they've heard growing up might have more truth to them than they originally thought. So this is really fun, really perfect like summer read. I think this is going to be a fun, I think this is also YM, which makes sense. This is a perfect fun summer, small town, a Southern Gothic. It's got mystery, it's got horror, it's got supernatural elements, it has found family, it has folklore, it has a lot. So this I think is honestly probably my favorite of the reads and my top like recommendation to others. But they're all very unique. So like I said, I think this is a perfect kind of summer horror, like you want something like you're not going to want to put down, thrilling, going to keep you engaged. I think When the Reckoning Comes is perfect if you want something that is a more traditional ghost story and traditional Southern Gothic, in the sense that you are definitely talking about ideas of race and race disparity. And then the Bog Wife, I think, is if you are more interested in a magical realism with a lot of nature visuals and some interesting family dynamics and tradition. So I think they all have a very unique place in the Southern Gothic genre. And while I didn't get to every book that I had on my list, now I know that I have a few more options to read when I get the itch to read more Southern Gothic, which will probably be sooner rather than later. So I'm quite excited about getting to those as well. Now, I was going to read, I know I mentioned it earlier in my improvised clip. Also, the clips that I included were from a different night, but I wanted to include them because Gotcha was being really cute and I wanted it memorialized on video. So I'm using those even though those were not from tonight. Anyways, doesn't matter. I was gonna watch Skeleton Key, this like Southern Gothic horror with Kate Hudson, but you have to pay for it and I'm not really in the mood to be doing that. So I think instead I'm gonna watch Sinners again, which would be my third time rewatching it this year. But it's so good. Obviously, it's like, I mean, it's Oscar winner. Hello. So I'm really excited. I literally love this movie. So I'm going to get a little drink. Maybe actually I kind of just had a little Olipop, so maybe I won't. But I'm just gonna get cozy on my couch and then watch that, and that's the rest of my night. And also that will finish up my Southern Gothic vlog, which I had so much fun. And like I said, I've read some good ones and I have a few more to look forward to. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching me do some fun Southern Gothic reading as well as some somewhat themed activities. And I have a few more really fun themed vlogs coming out this summer. So if you liked this one, keep an eye out for those. And with that, I'm gonna get cozy and watch some Southern vampires. Let's do it.